right, really appreciate that song. What a great thought. God never leaves us nor forsakes us. In every minute of our lives, He's guiding us along. Appreciate that song, Melanie. Thank you for playing, Tim. And this is my favorite time of the year as the youth pastor at the church. And the youth trip is kind of the culmination of an entire year of ministry, and it's the time where we see God work in a way that we just hope and long for. And so we just got back from that last Friday. A couple things just before I forget, because the last 2 years in a row I've forgotten to mention this. So if you donated money or are the parent of one of the teens, I've got a sign-up sheet up here. If you would like a copy of the testimonies that they all wrote down, or if you want a hard copy, I've got a few of those up here as well. What we have all the teens do is at the end of the week, on the way home, we have them take a few minutes and basically write down what God did in their hearts through the week, and to thank you folks for donating money so that we could go on a trip like this, right? Not every church has a youth ministry at all, and very few churches believe and support their youth ministry like our church does here. And just looking around the room, I'm just so thankful for all the kind words that so many of you have spoken to me, the donations that so many of you have given so that people could come on the trip. Man, it just is, it's genuinely overwhelming to think how many folks in here, and I'm sure that even if you didn't donate or say anything to me, I mean, you thought and you might have prayed for us while we were gone last week, and I tell you, it means the world, not just to me, but it means the world to each of the teens, and it really does a lot for the work of the Lord here. And so this year we went to Shawnee Baptist Youth Conference. Shawnee Baptist Church in Louisville, Kentucky holds a youth conference. This was their 21st time doing that, and so kind of a funny story. I actually went to this conference when I was in 8th grade and 10th grade, and then our church has been to this conference now in 2007, 2009, 2013, 2019, and then this year in 2021. So we've been there quite a few times, and it's one of my favorite it's one of my favorite youth trips, right? I'm going to say that every time I'm up here, that we've ever had. And I really just think the Lord did something great in the hearts of our teenagers this year. Like Pastor said, we had 4 teenagers accept Christ as Savior. We had a number of others just get assurance of salvation during the week, and countless decisions for the Lord. And it really is the most important thing is that everybody draws closer to the Lord as a result. So I've got a few pictures to share with you. Some of these, if you are already on Facebook or if you're a parent and we already sent you the link, you will have seen some of these. But so this is the group that we took. We took 70 teenagers and 8 adults. So in 2019, we had 72 teenagers and 8 adults. And last year, we were down at 50, I think we took 53 teens last year. So back up from last year, not quite to where we were numbers-wise 2 years ago, but that's not really the important thing. It's just each individual that came, the Lord had something for them. And so in total, 1 Sunday school class and 11 different individuals or families gave $5,900 towards teenagers coming on this trip. And that is a lot of money, right? That is a lot of kids that were able to come that would not have been able to come. And some of the kids that came, we just met a few weeks before at Vacation Bible School. Some of the kids that we helped are kids that ride our buses to church, and so there was just a lot of teenagers that were there that were able to get plugged into the youth ministry, got to hear the gospel, and many of them got saved because of it. And so, you all have a part in that, not just if you donated, but if you prayed. And so 37 of the 70 teens, this was either their first or second trip. And so a lot of kids had never been to this trip before. And I think that as adults and at this church, we get really spoiled with the idea that, youth group is just about having fun, and, they just mess around all the time. Well, if you know anything about the Shawnee Baptist Youth Conference, there is a lot of preaching at this conference. And so the conference went Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, there were 17 messages. And so there was a lot of games and stuff, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But we did not just play around the whole time. They were in services for a long time. They got a lot of preaching, right? That is more than a month's worth of Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night church in 3 days. Right? That's a lot of opportunities for God to speak to their hearts, right? They didn't have their phones. They didn't have any video game systems. We didn't let them turn the TV on in the room, right? It was just them, the people they're with, and God. And so the Lord really spoke to their hearts this week. And so we rented a charter bus to go on this trip. And so, that obviously makes things a lot nicer, especially considering the bus. We were going to take a second bus, and the check engine light for that bus came on Sunday morning when they were going to pick up kids. So we ended up taking the charter bus, 2 SUVs, a truck, and a car with people. So we had quite the convoy going down, but it's just a 2.5-hour drive, so it wasn't too bad. And so when we got to the Louisville area, we stopped at this park before we can check into our hotel. It's a walking bridge, so they were able to walk across one of the bridges to go onto the Kentucky side and then back. And this is going to be fun, so I'm going to have to keep switching that. So, so we just hung out at the park for a couple hours. It was at that park where I was defeated twice in Can Jam. And Gabe Adams and Will Reese have not let me stop hearing about it yet, and so y'all pray for me on that. It's this week more than any other week in my life. I'm 33 now, and this is just starting to happen. I'm starting to have them try and physically challenge me, and I don't like that. And so if they're starting to physically challenge me, they don't see me as much of a threat as they used to, and so. It's just a recipe for an issue for me in the future, so please pray for me on that. The conference started on Monday evening. There was about 550 teens there, I believe. We were the largest group at the conference. We actually had twice as many teens as the next largest group, but that's, again, it's not about the number of people that we took with us. They had a lot of very good youth speakers, a guy named Pastor Charlie Clark, Pastor Dean Miller, Pastor Randy Dignan, a youth pastor named Abdel Judah, and Pastor Steve Frost from Shawnee Baptist were some of the speakers during the week. And reading through the testimonies, a lot of the kids really, really got a lot out of those messages. Monday night we had an activity afterwards. They had a bunch of inflatables, and one of them was a jousting ring, and the person who is just below the light there is actually Wally, and there are 3 junior high boys that are not from our church that he's going up against, and let's just say that he did not show any mercy to them, even those with glasses, and it was a proud brother moment right there for me, because I was glad that he showed all the mercy he needed to show to our kids, but the other kids, like, yeah, they're not our problem, so yeah, no mercy right there. So that was fun. The next day, Tuesday was the long day of services, and every morning when we get them up, we give them time to read their Bibles, and we do a quick devotion ourselves. And Tuesday morning, we got to the conference, and they did a number of games that day, and really just I was just very impressed with the level of attention that our teens paid during the service, right? You would think that all those messages, an entire day of being, quote, at church, that, people be falling asleep or cutting up, and, there was very little of that actually took place, and a lot of the kids really did a great job paying attention, and, just an overwhelming amount of them made some kind of decisions for the Lord. And so Wednesday morning, we were going to go to the water park, and with the coronavirus, I guess they're even worse over there than we are here with people being understaffed. And so we were supposed to go to Kentucky Kingdom Water Park, and they canceled on them the week before. And so they booked a place called Malibu Jacks, which is a indoor go-kart, laser tag, arcade, and they had a couple rides in there also, and you know, it was just a great, you know, little bit of fun before we went back to more services. And the kids really enjoyed that. There was a few rides that just spin you around the whole time, and that's not really something that's for me. I wish we had a picture of the ride, but it's like literally a ride for babies. My wife was making fun of me. She's like, you won't get sick on this. And we got on there, and I was like nauseous for like the rest of the day. And it was literally like a kiddie ride. And so I'm not really helping my physical intimidation factor with our teens by saying that kind of stuff. But it was a really good time there. The kids really enjoyed it. And so we were there for a few hours in the morning, and then we went back to the service. There was a few games that they did between each service. That's Brother Jerry there. They had like a bench press competition, so they got one male sponsor from each team, and somehow Brother Jerry fell on his sword and decided that he would go and represent us on that. None of us other leaders wanted to. I had already participated in a game, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But Brother Jerry went up there, and he took one for the team on that. And Thomas was our male representative, and the slides went out of order. But this is another game where it's kind of a relay race, and that's Brooklyn Bright and Kaylee Lakes. So they had to put some whipped cream on like your palm and then throw it up in a ball and catch it in your mouth. So like you stick it on your wrist, throw it up, and you have to catch it. And so I don't know what that means. But yeah, so obviously that game was a little bit of a mess. And then after that, that's Tanner and Jackson. They had to get balloons out and sit on them and pop them. And so after the first team caught 2 or 3 of them, then they had to pop 4 or 5 balloons. And then after that, Emma and Chloe put on a 4X t-shirt, and Emma had to put her hands in front and feed Chloe spaghetti with meat sauce on it. And so it was a pretty messy game, right? But it was a fun little activity that we did. I don't know if we won or not on that one. Yeah, these are way out of order. But Thomas, on that weightlifting one, Thomas represented our team on that one, and he actually won. I think he won by more than 10 reps on it. So he's got a little red face right now. So you know, there was no doubt who we would send when they asked for a teen guy from our team on that one. There was a few of the junior high boys that wanted to go, but we thought better of sending them on that. After the conference was done on Wednesday night, we spent the day on Thursday at Kentucky Kingdom. Before we went to Kentucky Kingdom, we obviously still took time to read our Bibles in the morning, and we did a devotion together. And so we also helped pick up at the church after we were done, because Kentucky Kingdom didn't open until 11. But that's Stephen and Ben at Kentucky Kingdom. This is one of the games, and for some reason, I think the guy who was running this booth got a lot of money from our group. I know of one teenager from our group that spent $40 to try and win a little Pokemon plush toy that might be $5 tops. He was unsuccessful in that. Another teenager, he actually won 3 times in a row, and because he wanted to win the bigger one, he traded the ones that he had won to somebody else for money to play the game again, and he didn't win, and so he lost all of his. So we had a chat with him about the dangers of gambling and you know, winning it big, and so it was just a good time. And you had to throw these little wiffle balls into like a little grate. And some of the boys bought matching T-shirts to wear to Kentucky Kingdom, so that was really cute of them to do that. And you know, it was just a really good time spending time together. Thursday night, we do a group devotion where the whole group goes, and we got into the hotel's meeting room this time, and which is a lot better than 2 years ago when we were there. We were in like a pool room last time, so it was about 100 degrees, and everybody was sweating like crazy. But we were in an air-conditioned room that, you know, had a capacity of a little bit less than what we had in the room. And we just passed a little New Testament Bible around and let people share what the Lord did in their heart this week. And really, as a youth leader, that was my favorite time of the week, because it's a little glimpse into the hearts of some of the teens that came on the trip, right? A lot of times we as adults, and I'm guilty of this towards young people from other churches, and I have to catch myself, but we look over and we see teenagers and we look at their body language and think they're not paying attention, think they're not interested in what's going on. And then when you talk to them a little bit, you find out, they're paying a little bit more attention than you give them credit for, and they're a little bit more interested than we thought they were in what the Lord might say to them. And so this time is just a great time for us to be able to see what God has done in the hearts of some of our teens this week, and I got to share a lot of decisions and a lot of commitments to do better for the Lord, and it's just a great thing that we get to be a part of. Friday morning, we got them up early, and we took time for reading our Bible on the bus ride to the Indiana Caverns, which is a 10-mile, it's a cave system that's about 10 miles deep, or the caves go 10 miles, whatever. But we took about an hour-and-a-half tour through those caves, and the cave system actually has like a big underground river, and a big chunk of the tour you're on these boats going through the cave system, when they're just like motoring you around on a little trolling motor through this cave that would be just absolutely pitch black if they didn't add any lights to it. And so that was a lot of fun, and Noah there was feeding some goats that they had outside, and he spent a lot of time over there, and so that was a lot of fun. And before we came back, we went to it was actually another go-kart place with laser tag and some arcade games, and it was just a good way to wrap up the week. And like I said, there was a lot of preaching early on in the week, and we had our morning devotions and took time to read our Bibles on Thursday and Friday, but the majority of the speaking and the majority of the preparation and prayers was for what was going on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Not that the Lord didn't speak to hearts on Thursday or Friday. I mean, He did. That testimony service was awesome. But the last couple days we did a lot of playing because there was a lot of services early on in the week, and so it was a good time. And I don't think anybody got kicked off the go-karts. We did have one girl that we think she might have confused the brake and the gas pedal, and she went straight through the spot where you're supposed to park and just rammed straight into the wall and actually went over the little guardrail at the go-kart place. And we're still working on a nickname for her based on that, but it was just a really good time. A lot of great memories that we all share. This is a picture of the group at the conference, and I couldn't think of a better group of teenagers to dedicate my life to dedicate my time to, and I'm just so thankful that we were able to go on a trip like this. I need to take some time and thank our youth leaders, right? This kind of stuff is certainly above and beyond the regular call of duty, right? We have a lot of faithful people in this church, and I'm not taking away anything from anybody, but a week like this everybody is just dead tired by the end of the week, right? 18 to 20-hour days, Monday through Friday, will wear just about anybody out, right? And then, having to get everyone to go to sleep, even though the teenagers also had 18-hour days. They, for some reason, didn't want to sleep either. Anyway, and so just kind of, I just really want to thank the youth leaders that came, Brother Jerry, Miss Teresa, Wally and Amanda, Stephen and Erica, and then my wife for coming on this trip, right? This couldn't happen without adult chaperones, right? These are people who took a week off work, right? They have 1 week less of vacation. This isn't a vacation, right, for anybody. It's enjoyable, it's fun, but it is not restful at all, right? It's the opposite of restful. And in the case of Amanda, Erica, and my wife, right, they left little babies behind, which is extremely difficult for young mothers to do, and it shows how much they care about your kids. Right? It shows how much they care about our teenagers, and for each of those families to dedicate themselves a week, even just a week of their time to go on this trip, it just speaks to their character. It speaks to their love for the Lord and their love for our teenagers. And, I can't think of a different group of people that I would trust with our teenagers better than those six folks and my wife. And, it's just a blessing that we have folks like that here at this church. I need to thank my wife also for kind of agreeing to this life, right? The life of a youth pastor's wife. And, it's a difficult job putting up with me. And in the weeks leading up to this, just always she'd be talking to me about something else. And I'd just be like, well, what if we did this on the trip? And just completely, and that's not right for me to be like that, but, just a lot of weight on her shoulders because of the profession that I have chosen to go into. And so, I just really thank her for supporting us in that as well. And what we're going to do before we get into the message, we're going to have 3 of our pace setters give a testimony. And if you're not familiar with what a pace setter is, we invite any of the high school graduates who are, attempting to be faithful to the Lord. We invite them to stay on for an extra year and basically to give back to the youth ministry, right? So they set the pace for the other teenagers. They try to be faithful themselves, and they try to be dedicated to the Lord. They try to look out for those around them. And so we're going to hear from 3 of them, and I'll let them kind of give their stories here in just a minute. But the first one's going to be Thomas Hooper, and he probably would be the least known of them, but he's been at our church now for a few years, and I'll let him give his testimony. And then Mackenzie Jackson is next, right? She won, and then so Alex is last. So it'll be Thomas, then Mackenzie, and then Alex, and then I'll come back up and preach. So Thomas, come on.
All right, yeah, so as Josh said, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Thomas Hooper. I've been coming here for about, I think we're coming just on 3 years now, so I haven't been here super long. I'm going to be going into my sophomore year at Malone University. I'm studying criminal justice and cybersecurity. So yeah, in the 3 years that I've been at this youth group, I've grown tremendously in my relationship with God, my faith, and I'm really thankful for this youth group and what it's done for my life. But I didn't always have a good relationship with God. In fact, for the first 16 years of my life, I didn't really have a relationship with God at all. I grew up in a Christian household, but I never took the effort to actually know God. And it wasn't until I think I was going into my freshman year, Alex Featherland invited me to go to the lock-in at Mercy Healthplex. And that night, Brother Darren Adams led me to the Lord, and I got saved. And then about 2 years later, I still wasn't doing great with my relationship with God. And I actually mentioned I was a Christian to somebody at school, and they said, really? Like, you don't strike me as one. And that, I kind of woke up there, and I was like, I really need to get on the right track. And just a few days after that, Alex invited me to come to church here. And I've been here ever since. I love it here. God's done great things for me at this church. So this past week at Shawnee was definitely my favorite trip out of the 3 I've been able to go on. I made a lot of really big decisions for the Lord. I think the biggest one for me was realizing my calling to ministry. I felt a calling to ministry like a little bit the past 2 years, but nothing that I would consider full-time. More something like leading a Bible study with my peers, which I've been doing at Malone University with the members of the swim team, which has actually been going really well. I'm really excited to get that going again next semester. But last week I was called to full-time ministry. I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know what God is going to have me do to fill that role. But I'm excited. I'm ready to see where He takes me. One of the other things that God spoke to me about at Shawnee was witnessing, because I don't do a lot of that. And I have a big group of people I can influence because I'm involved in so many things, and I kind of have not been using that to my advantage. So I made a decision last week to witness to all my coworkers. The day I got back from the trip, I went into work and I told my boss about the trip and what it was like. And he said, in response, because I told him it was like a church function and everything, and his response was, I'm not interested in a religion, I'm interested in a relationship. And I think that was just about the best response I could get. Really opened the door to the conversation that I had with him later. As he was leaving work, I stopped him at his car, and I said, Christianity really isn't a religion as much as it is a relationship with God. And I gave him a tract, and I invited him to church here, and he was super receptive. He said, let me have your number. I'm going to have questions about that. Like, if I have questions, I'll contact you. I'll let you know what's going on. So, yeah, just a really positive experience there, I guess. It's encouraging to see God using me as a vessel in that way. And I'm just really excited to see what he has planned for me in the future.
Hi everyone. I'm Mackenzie Jackson. For those of you who don't know me, I was brought up in church and saved at a very young age. One Wednesday night before Master's Club, I told my sisters that I was ready to get saved, and they encouraged me to go tell my mom. So I did, and I went to my mom while she was getting ready, and I told her, and she stopped what she was doing right there. She took me into her room, showed me how to get saved, and prayed with me. And I'm not sure how long after that it was, but I was soon baptized. Years later, around the time that I was getting into the youth group, I was just not in a good place spiritually. I was in church every time the doors were open because of my family, but my heart wasn't in the right place. I had been really struggling with God and just church in general. In February of my junior year, I made the decision to get my life right, but I had no clue where to start because of where I'd been for so long, and I struggled with just Satan in my ear telling me that I was too far gone and that God didn't want me there. In April of that same year, we went to Camp Chautauqua, and there was a group from West Coast Baptist College that sang the song Justified, and it says, just if I had never sinned, just if I was always cleansed, just if I had never wandered so far from home, Jesus took all my sin away, he gives new mercy every day, and now I'm living my life justified. It was then that I realized that it didn't matter where I'd been or what I had done. God has a plan for my life, and that's when I started really working on my heart and my attitude and my relationship with him. A few months later, we went to Shawnee Baptist Church Youth Conference, and that's where I finally surrendered my life to God. I still don't really know what exactly that means for my life, but I know I'm going to follow it. I took some Bible classes this past year with West Coast Baptist College, and that really brought me closer to the Lord. But as many of you know, my family has went through a lot of changes this past couple months, and it really started to take a toll on me. I started to really need a spiritual intervention, as Randy Dignan preached on Monday night, and that's exactly what I got from this trip. The theme of this trip was courageous. And Brother Judah taught on Psalm 78:6, where Asaph talked of a generation to come. He told us we are that generation and we have to step up. And he said the most dangerous sins are, number one, the ones that don't bother you anymore, and number two, the sins that you think you're getting away with. And God really started to convict me during that time because I had many of those sins that were in that categories, and I needed God's help to get rid of them. In our last service, Pastor Frost taught on courageous dying, and he was the preacher when I first surrendered my life to God. And when he preached this time, it encouraged me to rededicate my life to God and commit to take up my cross daily to follow him. This trip brought very many good things to me and good decisions for me. I've been on 7 trips, but this one was my favorite. Um, Thank you to everyone who donated and prayed for us. And thank you especially to our youth leaders and Pastor Wally for all the work that they put into this trip and into my life for the last 7 years. I am who I am today because of their prayers and their time, and I can't wait to see what else God has for me. Thank you all for letting me share my testimony with you.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Alex, and I would just like to say that I'm glad that we serve a living God. Most people can't say that about their God, and I'm glad that we can say that about our Almighty God. And it really was a privilege to get to go to camp this week and really see the hand of God on that conference. Because a lot of people look at what's going on today compared to the miracles that were done in the Old Testament by the prophets or by Jesus' ministry, and they're like, where's that at today? But you go through something like this, and you see God touching the hearts of all these teenagers, and myself included, and it really just is incredible to see the power of God in that way, and it was a great week this past week. I got saved at a young age. I was raised in a Christian household, and I got saved at the age of 8. My mom led me to the Lord after I realized I needed to get saved. And I feel like a lot of Christians who get saved young struggle with their salvation, and that was me. I went through that for a long time, for about 10 years. And that's just not a good place to be. And if that's something you're struggling with, I'd encourage you to get that settled and talk to someone about that. But, man, I'm glad that God took care of that in my life, and not this past week, but in general. But it's genuinely always been a privilege to go on these trips, and that was no different this year. Having stayed on as a pace setter, this year was my last trip, and I was essentially the super senior that everybody kind of just wondered why he was still there. But that was me. And it was a great opportunity to get to invest in the kids around me. It was an awesome opportunity to get to go invest in them, tell them or show them that they needed to be excited to be there, teach them how to be crazy, and make sure that the 7th graders in my room actually took showers every day. And so that was a good time. But I can't think of anything I would have rather spent my week doing than spending time with this amazing youth group. And it was encouraging to see so many kids make decisions for God this week. Multiple kids from our group got saved. As Josh said, some kids felt God were calling them to full-time ministry. So many people surrendered their life to God to truly live for Him. And it genuinely brought tears to my eyes to see God moving in such a mighty way in our youth group. And it was encouraging, especially to see the hearts of the people in this group knit together, closer together. And that's something that has happened every year. And the youth trip is always a time where people are able to grow closer to one another and knit their hearts closer together. But I really saw that happen a lot more this week than I'd ever seen before. Something I love about this youth group is that the friends you make here are your friends outside the youth group too. It's not superficial. It's not just because you're here. And it was an encouragement to have our hearts knit closer together. But this year, there was something different. There was, every night it seemed like there was people at the altar together, praying together, bearing one another's burdens, praying with one another, and really just investing in each other spiritually. And that was really encouraging to be a part of. And it even shone through. There's been times since the trip. There was times at the end of the trip where people were like, "Why are you doing that?" Or like, people are like, "Oh, we need to give that guy a track." And it was just encouraging to see everybody start to keep each other accountable spiritually and invest in one another spiritually. But personally, God really spoke to me about this week about being consumed by Christ, allowing Him to be my all, emptying myself of any pride or shame or fear that would keep me from living solely for Him, deciding that I'm going to live for Him no matter the cost. And I know that's a lot easier said than done, so I've decided that there's going to be some practical life changes I want to make in my life as well, not just words, such as getting deeper into the Word, deciding to have hard conversations with people about their salvation, regardless of their opinion of me, and doing whatever it takes to be filled with the Spirit and live accordingly. But you know that feeling when you've had a really long day, and you might be sweaty and grimy because you were working outside or something like that, and then you get to get in the shower and you get to get cleaned off and you get to get refreshed. That was this youth trip. The Bible says, Psalm 119, it says, "Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed thereto according to thy word." And after 17 services, I promise you, there was a lot of cleansing that went on. And this past week was really just a refresher to me, and I'm really thankful that I got to go. I'm also just thankful to everybody that helped out financially. That has a special place in my heart, because I know for my first trips, there were people that helped me and supported me so that I could go. And I just encourage you, if you've given in the past, if you've given in faith, continue to give in faith, because God really does bless it each and every time. And I'd like to wrap up by saying thank you. Thank you to the youth leaders that have invested in me over the last 7 years of my life. And thank you to Josh for allowing me to stay on an extra year. Thanks for all those who gave financially. And thank you to the youth group. And thank you to everyone around me during this trip. And thank you to everyone that made this trip awesome. It really was a great last trip. It was encouraging to see everybody grow in their faith. And I'm excited for you guys and what God has next for everybody.
All right. And I don't know about you, but just when you see the zeal of teenagers for the Lord, I think as adults we envy it at first, and then we justify within ourselves why we don't have it anymore. And that's not how we should live our life either. And so let's look at our Bibles in Luke chapter 9. I promise I'll just be a few moments this evening. Luke chapter 9. What's the point of being a Christian? Right, I know that the most important thing is not having to die and spend an eternity in hell, but is that really all that the Christian life is about? Is the Christian life just about living our life in a way that we can do certain things so that God will bless us, or not do certain things so God won't get us? And is it just about getting by and, trying to get all that we can get out of life, right? Are we just in it, a relationship with God, so that we can selfishly get some things out of it? Right? I think a lot of times we as adults especially look at what God can do for us, and we almost treat the Christian life like it's just this, I better do this so this happens to me, and I better not do this so this doesn't happen to me, rather than an actual relationship with God, rather than there being something proactive, something purposeful for us to live our lives by. And in Luke chapter 9, I think Jesus really lays this out for us. In Luke chapter 9, we're going to start in verse 23. And he said to them all, so this wasn't just to his apostles, this wasn't just to the closest group of followers, this was to everybody. He said to them all, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever will lose his life for my sake, the same shall save it. For what is a man advantaged if he gain the whole world and lose himself or be cast away? I think the idea of us taking up our cross and following him has become a cliche to us as Christians. And we look at the difficulties that every single person faces in life as the cross that we have chosen to pick up and carry for the Lord, right? Life being difficult is not the cross that we're commanded to carry. Life being difficult is the result of a sin-cursed world that we live in. Amen. Picking up your cross to follow Jesus is a choice that we're supposed to make from this passage daily. We're supposed to do it every single day and follow him. Denying ourselves is something that none of us like to do, because we want to appease ourselves. We want to please ourselves, right? We don't want this idea of doing something that somebody else wants from us. We don't want to, even the idea of picking up a cross, the cross was what Jesus died on, right? It was an instrument of torture. We don't want to pick up something that's going to be grievous to us in order to follow Jesus. And so I think a lot of us have really chosen to stop denying ourselves and to stop picking up our cross daily in our Christian life. We've gotten into this complacent groove that we like to live in, where we're just doing enough to have some blessings of God in our life and not being bad enough so God isn't going to have to chastise us. That's not what the Christian life is supposed to be. We should all pick up our cross and follow Jesus every single day. All saved people, you should have a desire to follow the Lord, and all saved people are called to pick up this cross. And just kind of as a clarifying statement to that, every single person's cross is not the same. I am so thankful that my cross is not the same as our pastor's cross. My cross is hard enough, right? Most of the teenagers in our group, they're not called to be preachers and pastors' wives or missionaries. Most of the people in this room, just like them, are called to be faithful Christians where God has placed you. And you know what? There's a cross that you have to pick up as part of that. Many of them spoke about witnessing to others. You know, when's the last time we denied ourselves and stepped out of our comfort zone a little bit to share with someone how they can avoid hell? When's the last time we inconvenienced ourselves to go out of our way to do something for the Lord? Right? When it's convenient for us to serve the Lord, that's not denying ourselves. That's you got nothing better to do. Is it really that big of a sacrifice for us to take a night off from watching TV, doing nothing, and go to church? Amen. Is that really what it means to deny ourselves and pick up our cross? I think that we have such a lax view on what it means to be a Christian that we've just we're so self-deceived into thinking we're more dedicated than we are. And we don't need to draw this line of, well, you know, if I'm going to be dedicated, that means I'm going to be a preacher. No, that's not what it means. If God's called you to do that, you should do it. But if not, you need to be faithful where God's placed you, and you need to deny yourself, pick up your cross daily, and follow Him. Our life ends, and what is done for Christ is the only thing that's going to matter. Whosoever shall save his life shall lose it. But whosoever will lose his life for my sake, the same shall save it. We're so consumed with this life, with the next promotion, with what we're excited about coming out on TV, or what sport we want to participate or watch, or what activity or what vacation or whatever thing is coming up in our life next. We're so consumed with those things. That is how we are seeking to save our life. We're seeking to spend our life to do something that we think is fun and enjoyable. But at the end of our life, we're going to look back and be like, man, is that what I spent my time doing? Right? How much time are we investing in our families? How much time are we investing in the work of the Lord, right? That is when we're choosing to lose our life and find life in what God has for us, when we deny ourselves and pick up our cross daily and follow Him. Live today so that you would have no regrets for tomorrow. If your life today will produce regrets tomorrow, you know that you're setting yourself up for just feeling like you've wasted your life. The things that you do for the Lord, the things that you do for others, the things that matter more than just this little temporary boost of confidence or happiness that we get from what we spend the majority of our time pursuing, the things that we do that matter, that is when we will find true life, when we will find true satisfaction and peace from God. It's a daily choice. We all do bad sometimes. Today's a new day. You can start right now, and you can do it again tomorrow. Right? I don't remember which of the pace setters said it, but you know what? It was Mackenzie. You know, just as if I'd never sinned. You know what? God is long-suffering and merciful, and you've got another chance the rest of the day today to deny yourself and pick up your cross and follow Him, and you can do the same tomorrow.